Believe it or not, nearly every gas station in the country has cheap race gas available at the pump. But there's compromises. Stay tuned and I'll tell you what they are. So using E85 as cheap race gas, it's 100 octane, which means you can pack in a ton of compression and use very aggressive cams and get in very aggressive ignition timing, things like that. So you can essentially build a race engine suited for 100 octane and run E85 as some cheap race gas. But there are two major trade-offs. First off, you need to be aware that you will nearly need to double the size of the injector. At minimum 50 to 60% larger injectors, because that engine is going to consume 30% more fuel. So of course that's a 30% loss in fuel economy on average, of course, but when you introduce ethanol into gasoline, you lower your stoichiometric considerably as well. So a non-ethanol fuel has a stoichiometric, which is the point at which all fuel is consumed during combustion, and stoichiometric is around 14.69. When you introduce 10% ethanol, stoichiometric is reduced to 14.3, and then if you were to run E85, stoichiometric is even considerably lower than that. So if you were building a serious hot rod engine that would require 100 octane fuel, plan on burning 30% more fuel. Of course, if you're building a hot rod like that, most of you probably aren't concerned with fuel economy anyway. But we're going to continue forward and talk about the downside of ethanol fuels. We're going to give you some facts about ethanol, the problems with ethanol, and some new things that are evolving with different octanes in the gasoline industry. Okay, first off, historically, when you go to a pump, you have a choice of 87, 89, or 93 octane. Okay, and of course, as of recent, we see 87 octane ethanol-free fuel available at some stations, and then of course E85. So the big change that's happened, historically 93 octane was achieved by using petroleum distillates in order to raise the octane level. All right, now that works great for performance engines with higher compression ratios that make more power. You want more octane to retard combustion a little bit, so you can run the higher compression ratios and more aggressive cam, more aggressive ignition timing in order to make more power. I'll expand on that. Some people are confused about what octane really is. A lot of folks think that octane is actually, higher octane fuels are actually more flammable. The opposite is true. Okay? It has to be less flammable to avoid detonation in higher compression ratio engines. That's how you make more power, and you can use higher octane fuels to do that. But I digress. Historically, 93 octane was formulated by the use of petroleum distillates to raise the octane level to 93, and then, of course, the standard is nearly 10% ethanol at all stations. What has changed as of recent is now 93 octane is achieved by adding ethanol, which increases the octane level. And then on top of that, it's 10% base formulation. So that means when you're purchasing 93 octane fuel, you could be as much as 15% ethanol out of the gate. So why wouldn't we run 87 octane? This is where responsible engine building comes in communications with your customers. When you're making decisions for what type of engine to build, what types of compression ratios and cams, valve sizes, things like that, it's very important to understand where the motorcycle is going to be ridden and also the types of fuels that are going to be available. So what that means for the consumer, if you want to run fuels that have less ethanol, then you have to run slightly lower compression ratios and not be as aggressive with the tuning. Does that mean that you have to give up a little bit of power to do that? Yes, it does. So why would we want to give up a little bit of power? So here's some facts about ethanol that folks don't understand and why it can be so bad. Okay, first off, ethanol-based fuels only has a shelf life of about 90 to 100 days. Okay, so after 90 to 100 days, it needs to go in the garbage. Why is that? Well, ethanol absorbs moisture. So when you have a motorcycle that's sitting for more than 90 to 100 days and you only have a half a tank of gas in it, because the gas tank is vented, it is exposed to a lot of moisture by means of condensation inside the tank. So ethanol absorbs all of that moisture. It doesn't take very much moisture to affect the quality of the gasoline. As a matter of fact, if you added just 1 tablespoon of water to a gallon of 10% ethanol fuel, it's completely contaminated and should not be run whatsoever. Okay? In order for the fuel to maintain most of its energy, again, we're talking about 10% ethanol fuel, in order for it to maintain most of its energy, being BTUs, the fuel should be replaced every 2 to 3 weeks. So if you consider during the winter months and your motorcycle's in storage during the winter, after 2 to 3 weeks, the fuel is contaminated and doesn't have the energy and doesn't run as well as it would when it was absolutely fresh. So 2 to 3 weeks is a very short period of time. Okay, so what we have to do when we're building engines for you guys is we have to think about how long does the motorcycle sit, how long is it in storage, how often do you ride? And we may have to adjust the compression ratios, cam profiles, valve sizes, and things like that in order to put you into an engine that's more appropriate to where you could run 87 octane so you don't and have the least amount of ethanol in your fuel, or run 87 ethanol free fuel, which ethanol free fuel can have a storage life of several years and it not have any adverse effects on it. So if you come to us and ask us to build you an engine, we need to sit down and have a long conversation about the type of riding that you do. We can build you a lot of horsepower and torque requiring very high octane fuels, but if your bike sits in storage for a long period of time, you're going to be seeing me in a few months to clean your fuel injectors, your throttle body, and your gas tank. So let's keep all of those things in mind. Once again, guys, thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions at all, be sure to put them in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to speed on these updates. And also, if you don't mind, when you hit the like button, it tells me that you like the content that we're giving you. So it's important to us that you like what you're getting and that you're getting the information that you find valuable. So again, guys, thank you very much for watching. Ride safe. We'll see you next time.